Today's Inspire, Innovate, Ignite Conversation That Count series, and today we are talking about healing the natural way. And of course, my name's Sophia from Sacred You, our sacred community. Today we have with us some wonderful panelists that are all going to share their story, their journey, their techniques on how they've been able to heal themselves and also how they help others to healing the natural way. Because of course we live in a world where it is very easy to get, medications. We can take a pill that will help us with symptoms, but doesn't necessarily always go down to the deeper level to help us heal the cause of any dis-ease that we're experiencing. So let me introduce all our beautiful panelists who are with us today. And to start with, we have Becky. And Becky, if you could just wave and say hi, that Becky Edwards is joining us. And Becky is Becky, over a 3-year time period. Now I've got the right thing that I'm reading. Sorry about that, Becky. Becky went from struggling with depression and anxiety, which I totally connect to living out her biggest and wildest dreams, which we're certainly going to hear about. Becky's mission is to create a space that encourages, supports, and celebrates the courage that it takes to express ourselves authentically in our world, right? And the best way that Becky knows is about writing. So Becky, thank you for joining us. I do want to hear more about your story and about your book. We will certainly be talking about your books very, very soon, and I'm looking forward to hearing your journey on how you've overcome depression and anxiety and everything else in our lives. So thank you. Then we have Charlotte, and Charlotte's joining us from Sydney, so welcome, Charlotte. And Charlotte has explored the mind, yes, great, and unpacking through her studies and mental health diagnosis. Charlotte has deepened her connection with her healing journey, especially with physical healing, after receiving abnormal medical results that led her down a path of cyclical living, womb-based elemental and shamanic practices. So Charlotte, thank you again for joining us, because I know we've talked a little bit before about how you've gone into healing your womb and everything with your natural cycles, and we do want to hear more about Earth Child as well. So thank you for that. We've also got Dr. Cindy, who's returning. Welcome back, Dr. Cindy. It's glad to see you here. And Dr. Cindy is a board-certified physician, a best-selling author, mindfulness teacher, a speaker and life coach who is committed to helping high achievers live their best life with ease. As a physician, Dr. Cindy saw the impact of chronic stress on the body and wanted to do more about than prescribe medication as a band-aid, which is a wonderful thing. I'd love to talk to you, Dr. Cindy, about being a doctor, because that's what I'm looking for, is a doctor that doesn't just prescribe medications. You also aim to provide a radical path to healing and translate your professional knowledge into a powerful blueprint with the Inspiring Success Story method to help people step beyond their comfort zones and dare to achieve their dreams. So definitely looking forward to that as well. And last but not least is Heidi, and Heidi's joining us all the way from Washington, which I forgot to say. And of course, Becky's from Nebraska. But Heidi, thank you for joining us from Washington. And Heidi started her journey at the age of 17, more than 40 years ago, when she came across her first yoga master from India, who picked her natural curiosity about the body and mind. From this point, Heidi has been fascinated with how the world we live in, and has been fascinated with the world that we live in, and create ourselves how it all affects us and our well-being, how we create that. So Heidi has received her first certifications in applied can never say that word, Kine, I'll let you say that one, Heidi.
Kinesiology.
Thank you. That one, when you were 21, wow, and has continued to study energy, medicine, movement, and the art of ritual and ceremony. And even while in corporate America, teaching international in the computer industry, Heidi continued to study internationally and work with clients privately. And finally, in 2001, she left her corporate position of 25 years, realizing her heart was in helping people to heal and feel whole. So, love to hear more about that. So, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. So, let us start. Let us start talking about healing the natural way compared to also using traditional or the traditional methods and the methods of of the world today, where a lot of people are prescribed medicines and things. So why don't we start off with Becky, because you're on my left. So tell us, Becky, tell us a little bit about your journey and the tools that has helped you with writing and helped you overcome your depression and anxiety. So, what led you from being in a state of experiencing high anxiety to now?
Well, when I was there and things didn't seem to be getting any better, I didn't seem to be finding my way out of the depression or the anxiety. And I didn't really know what to do or where to turn. And I started reading some books about natural healers and yogi masters and chakras and things like that. These were all terms and things that were very new to me. I didn't know what they were. I had never heard these terms before, but I was at a place where I was surrendering. I didn't know how to help myself, and I needed to explore other things. Whether they worked or not, I needed to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit and see what else was out there and see uh, what opportunities were out there for me to kind of forge my own path. And through that, I found meditation, which is probably the number one thing that brought me all the way, out. Of course, there were other things, but I had never meditated before. I didn't know how to do it, but I had enough knowledge to know I'm supposed to sit and be quiet, right? And the inside of my head was anything but quiet at that time. It was very loud. It had a lot of opinions, and I was trying to figure out how to get it to be quiet.
Yeah.
And once I did that, and it wasn't instant, it probably took several months of daily focused meditation. Um, Hold on one second.
It's not a problem. It's fine. And we'll come back to Becky. So while Becky helps that with her animals and stuff, which is wonderful to see. Heidi, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've been able to use healing techniques.
At this point at 64, the journey's been really intense and multifaceted. And I believe I've lived about 5 or 6 lifetimes in this one lifetime. The biggest journey started, I had a fairly severely abusive childhood. And by age 11, I was already addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I got clean when I was 27. My biggest thought about that, though, was I didn't want to be called an addict all my life.
Yeah.
Everything I had been taught, everything I had been told, and again, this is in the 70s and 80s timeframe before Gerber Mate and a lot of the leading psychologists and things of today. Basically, you were an addict. You would be an addict all your life. You were powerless over any of that kind of stuff. And I just couldn't buy that.
Mhm.
It never rang bright. And I did the whole routine of getting a sponsor and everything. But within a year, it's like I would hear people in the room say, I'm so and so, and I'm a drug addict, and I've been using for, if it weren't for these rooms for the last 20 years. And I was talking to people that had been sitting in the rooms for 20 years in order to stay clean. And I thought, this is not the life I wanted. And I really, in my heart, believed that we could transcend and no longer have to call ourselves addicts.
Yeah.
And that's really the search that I had. And I know that it's a very controversial conversation I have had with many people because of our societal beliefs, but I really have transcended addiction. And I believe that we all can.
Mm-hmm.
Because and same thing, whether it be a physical illness, emotional illness. I'm using the word illness because I don't know that I necessarily believe in that word, but it is a lexicon, part of our lexicon of the culture. All of those things, there are root causes that are in our unconscious, that are in our bodies. Our bodies never forget.
Yes.
And I know for myself, like if you look generationally just at the physical, none of the women in my family except myself for multiple generations now still has their womb, is healthy, doesn't have bone disease, things like that. And, allergies and all those kinds of things. And I realized in my 30s, we didn't have to do that to ourselves. I didn't have to have allergies. I was buying into it. And I found out the root causes within my own psyche of what those illnesses were. And once I did that, they went away. So I believe so strongly that it really is our unconscious and the limiting beliefs that cause trouble.
Yes.
And when we can, and so I've literally spent 40 years studying everything from rituals and ceremonies that I've learned from just having the pleasure of studying with some amazing indigenous teachers throughout the world, to working with neurolinguistic programming, heart math, meditation, all those things, and putting them all together and figuring out, for myself and also helping clients using these tools, how to become our own best friends and integrate inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once we do that, we heal.
We are, and I totally agree with you, and definitely want to go into more, about becoming our own best friends and integrating all that from inside. So I'd love to know more about that very, very soon. So thank you for
And
sharing that.
and also, Sophia, I want to say thank you for having this panel and everybody that's on it. I can't wait to hear the rest of the stories. So,
Yeah.
Becky, you've already been really inspiring, and I'm sure everybody else was. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem, and you're so welcome, because you have a very inspirational story too, which is why I really like doing these panels, because we're all women who can inspire others and stuff, and that's one of the main things, is even if there's one woman out there who is watching us, and for anyone who is watching us, please say hi, drop your names in the comments, and if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to add to our discussion, please let us know. And Becky, let's just go back to you now, if you'd like to continue and finish on from what you were saying.
Sure. Thank you for your patience. What I was saying is I found meditation, and through meditation, what I learned is we are part of the universe, and we are not separate from it. We are part of nature, and because we are part of it, we have access to all of this collective wisdom and knowledge that the universe holds. And I learned how to tap into that. And through those processes and sessions and meditation, I found automatic writing, which is pulling information, in my opinion, pulling information out of the universe to answer my own questions and guide myself farther down the road. And it's really changed everything about my life. It has. like Heidi, I don't consider myself a depressed person anymore. I have gotten beyond that, and it is freeing. And I hope that myself and the ladies here, can help or can show anyone watching that is maybe in the middle that it is possible, and that there is light out there, and there are people like you, Sophia, trying to get the information out there into the corners of the world, so that people don't have to feel alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And we definitely do want to know more about your journey, and especially with the writing, because I also have experienced the power of automatic writing and how that helps to tap into the universe. So thank you for sharing that, Becky. And what about you, Charlotte? Tell us a little bit about your journey, and where you've got to now.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Just before I start, I really sort of resonate with what Becky was saying about the mindfulness and the meditation. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I did use that. But that was a time where I really used my mind, and because I studied psychology and I was very analytical, it was easy for me to sort of try and think my way out of it. And it's interesting because what I'm going to go into deeper now, talking about, is my experience of physical healing and healing my body.
Yes.
So even though I had that in my early 20s, what ended up happening was I was sexually assaulted. And a few months after that, I had a diagnosis of HPV and of cervical dysplasia.
Yes.
And I think it was my body telling me, like, okay, you've had a trauma. This is coming up because you haven't healed it through different ways. I tried to think my way out of it. I tried to look at like the psychological research, and I was like, oh yeah, I understand this, I've got this now. And then a few months later, this is when this all came up. And at the same time that I had this diagnosis, I saw someone that I'd previously known, called Gina Francis, and she's got like a womb-based business, and she works with cyclical living. And it was sort of just the timing of it. I was like, I'd always been interested with working with her, and I was like, this is it. I've got to work with her. And I ended up working with her one-on-one and in containers for about 1.5 years, and I still refer to her notes and her information now. And the idea of this is that during our menstrual cycle, we have 4 different sort of phases. And through these phases and our energy levels changing, we sort of ebb and flow, like we go with these natural cycles. And as you were saying before, Becky, we are nature. Like we have cycles the same way that nature does, the same way that the tides do. And we can't be go, go, go all the time. With the feminine, we need to sort of go with the yin and the yang energy. And over time, this sort of really helped me because I've been monitoring my cycles for about 2.5, 3 years now. And then what's ended up happening is I've brought in other information. So I was doing a shamanic practitioner course, and that really works with the natural elements. And I did another course as well, which was focusing on the elements and how we can use the elemental energy within our own cycles that we have with the elements. So it's sort of, I've just woven it all together. And I'd say the best way to describe where I'm at right now is that I'm a cyclical being. I'm living with my cycles, knowing that I am a part of nature. And yeah, in that way, it's like nature is healing me, because I'm being with nature is probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, it's been a phenomenal journey, but right now it's been great.
Okay. don't know. Charlotte.
Like,
Yep.
and I'm going where I'm meant to.
Yep.
Can everyone hear me? It seems
Yep.
to have paused.
Yep, you're back again now. You just dropped out there a little bit.
I did. Yeah, I just noticed it pause.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you caught the end of it, but I was just saying how using these different cycles has allowed me to feel more in alignment.
Yeah.
And I'm living my mission now.
Good. Thank you. And I definitely want to know more about that too, and about being a cyclical being and getting to know your cycles and the ebb and flow of life, which we all go through. No matter what stage of life we are. So thank you so much for sharing your journey as well. And we will come back to that. Now, Dr. Cindy, I've really been waiting. I'd love to talk to you again because as a doctor, you've spent many years as a practicing doctor and treating people with medication. But how now? How has that changed to now, and what brought you to the decision of really helping people with mindfulness and healing in other ways rather than just putting a band-aid over things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want you to imagine waking up one day and not being able to see. This is what happened to me. To go from healthy to sick overnight was a really total wake-up call. And ever since I was young, I've been very health conscious, and I wanted to become a physician so I could help others be healthy. But then when I got sick myself, I was forced to slow down and to listen to my body and realize that our body has its own intelligence and we need to pay attention to these messages. So I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition that impacted my eyes that could have led to full blindness. And I started treatment right away with immunosuppressants and all these serious medications. And yes, my vision started to recover, but I knew that the underlying problem was still there. And I didn't want to just put a Band-Aid on and, use it as a quick fix. So in becoming my own best health advocate, trying out different therapies and treatments, I really gave myself permission to explore. And I came across the field of integrative medicine, which is a field of medicine that incorporates many healing modalities from Western, Eastern, traditional, complementary, alternative, just all the different ones, to give you options so that you can be in your best state of health. And I worked with a whole team of integrative practitioners who really listened, and they're working together. Thankfully, have been able to recover my vision. And so this really inspired me to train in integrative medicine, as well as other therapeutic mind-body modalities, mindfulness, coaching, energy healing practices like Reiki, theta healing, all these things, and really focus on helping clients take that integrative approach to wellness. And I think, it's not to say, that there's not a time and place for Western medicine, especially in acute conditions, right? Like if you're in a car accident, if your bone's broken, please go to the hospital, right? Get surgery when you need it. But it's about, when you look at more of the chronic conditions, right? The underlying inflammation, really recognizing that there are other options and being open to exploring is really what I hope to share with the audience.
And thank you for doing that, because especially for me as a person who was born with a genetic condition, I love it how you say, to explore that there are other options and to look at the underlying cause, which I know a lot in our world today in the general medicine, that, it is all about just treating the symptoms rather than looking at the underlying cause. So thank you for sharing that. We will go more into that. Just want to open it up now as even more. If you have any other tips and techniques you know, for our listeners and for anyone out there who is watching, please, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments. And how can we use, you know, all these techniques that you use? You know, Becky, you use your writing, for example, and Heidi, you know, it's all about, you know, going back into the meditation and helping with that. Is there any other tips and techniques that you've used on your journey that you can share with our listeners that can help us to go to the source of the dis-eases, you know, to go to the source of the anxiety, of the depression, of the addictions and things, and also other diagnoses? Anyone? Becky, yes. Oh, we've just like, yep, that's okay.
I
That's
clicked
the
the wrong
one.
button.
That's the one. That happens.
Well, one of the things that I use with automatic writing and that I do teach to other people is that it's fine to use a computer, but I really strongly connect with the pen, paper, pencil, paper method. And the reason for that is for someone like me, I can type very quickly. And sometimes my fingers get ahead of my brain, and it causes the start, stop, pause, where I have to think about what I want to say and then type it. But when I'm handwriting, it slows the whole process down enough that I'm allowed to complete my thought before my hand gets done writing it. And completing the thought is really important because there's a lot of things in our minds when you're suffering with depression and anxiety. We have thoughts that aren't necessarily true and that we don't necessarily believe, but are just sort of bombarding us, you know, that you're not good enough, you're not this enough, whatever it is. And if you can write these things down, like, you know, if you start exploring those thoughts intimately, like, you know, why do I think I'm not good enough? And answering that question, or when did I first feel this way? When was the first time I can remember feeling not good enough? And what happened? Who was I with? What was being said? What were the actions? And if you can start writing those things down and complete that thought process, you can start to understand where these thoughts and ideas were created in your life. And you can then look at that piece of paper and say, is this still true? Do I still believe this? But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to complete the thought,
Yeah.
it's just this ping pong ball going back and forth that never really resolves anything. It's just this constant anxiety. So that is my suggestion, is to use the pen and the paper to slow the process down. And I'm going to pause myself and close my shade.
That's okay. Thank you. And we will come back to that one too. So thank you. Yes, Charlotte. Oh,
Well,
yep, you're back here.
so one way that I live cyclically is on a daily basis.
Yes.
I work my way through the natural elements. So in the shamanic practice that I learned, we have an altar, and the altar starts off with earth, which is very much about the physical body.
Yes.
So I start my day trying to like ground myself and go into my body, whether that's a stretch or, you know, movement or something, so I'm physically in the body. And also I'll make sure that I walk barefoot outside as well.
Yes.
There's research coming out now how this can help the electrons and free radicals and reduce inflammation. There's a great documentary that people can look at called Earthing or Grounding if they want more information. But then I try and move into water. So most days I live 5 minutes from Bondi Beach. I'm very lucky. So I'll go into the water pretty much every day. And then air will be working with breath work, making sure that I do some breaths. And then fire is either being with my altar or making sure that I take action on something that might be on my list that I've been avoiding. And it's something that I do. That's something that I try and do like on a daily basis. I'm not as strict. In the past, I used to be quite perfectionist. So I'm sort of not as strict. It's like, okay, a day's a new day. That's okay. I've worked through. But that's my daily. And then depending where I'm on my cycle, there might be different energies. So I'm in a winter now, which is when I'm bleeding. And for me, I feel like that's a very earthy energy. I need to be grounding, sort of a bit inward, that feminine energy, and also with the water, the flowing and the allowing, again, very feminine. So I might do more like, I'm going to do a bath and like just, treat myself as self-care. That's just like an example of through the phases as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And can I ask you, I'll come back to you, Charlotte, because I do have another question for you, but I will come back to that. So Heidi, would you like to add anything?
I would. Had to get myself off of mute. I loved what everybody had to say. I wished when I was younger I knew about the cycles and how to work with your menstrual cycle and things. Although, again, after my daughter and after deciding to heal the generational stuff, I was pretty lucky in that all settled out. I think the tool that has stayed with me for so many years and has helped me the most is really taking a moment to really, close the eyes, take a deep breath, and go into my heart. And the reason I say that, science now shows that there's something like 40,000 neurons in the heart that reflect the brain. So, and the heart actually communicates easily 100 times more information to the brain than the brain to the heart. And Heart Math Institute has done research for 20 some years on this all. And what happens is when we start to feel an emotion, it is channeled through the heart physically up into the brain, and then the brain releases the chemicals and things that create anxiety, depression, fear, happiness, joy, gratitude. So one of the things, especially when a part of me is going a little bit nuts, I always like to remind my clients and people that all the parts that we see inside of us, they are us. We need to make friends with them, not fight with them. When that critical voice is yelling in my head, what works for me, and this is what I want to share, is, going into my heart, deep breath. I love you. What are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to learn? Because I understand now, like what Becky was saying with that kind of work, it's so fabulous. And now I understand when the critic's coming up, it's not my mom, it's me, and it's trying to tell me something, trying to get me to pay attention to something. And like a little kid, instead of making it bad, respecting the feeling and saying, me being an adult, what are you trying to tell me? It's amazing what an ally it will be and the wonderful things it's trying to do. And also because my body knows when I'm in an environment that's not healthy or safe for me, again, if I drop into the heart, it will tell me, this isn't right, you need to leave, or that person over there's energy is not good or something. So for me, it's really the practice of, it's simple, and you have to spend time. It's just going into your heart, saying I love you, and meaning it, and letting that spread.
Yeah, isn't that powerful? You can feel that, or I can feel that going through my whole body. Just asking our bodies. I've always said that, our bodies are our natural healers, are our natural doctors, but it's allowing that time to ask, what's it trying to tell us? So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And Dr. Cindy, do you have anything that you would like to share before we continue? And I have some more questions.
Sure. So I definitely agree with a lot of the things that the other panelists have shared. I think it really comes down to being present and paying attention, right? And we are constantly getting bombarded by messages and signals and input from our external world. And it's just so noisy that we've really not been able to hear our own selves as clearly. And so for me, the practice of mindfulness and slowing down has been very helpful. And I always like to say that mindfulness is not the same as meditation, right? Meditation is a type of mindfulness practice, but I work with a lot of clients who are high achievers, right? They're constantly going, they have a busy, active mind, and they're like, I can't sit and slow down and not think. And so we start with things like just simple things of taking breaths, right? Paying attention to how the air feels as it goes through your nose and, feeling your belly expand. It's going outdoors, taking a walk, being mindful, even like when you're showering, the feel of water on your skin. All of these practices to slowly rebuild this relationship with yourself again, I think is really key. And the other thing is really just knowing that everyone is different. And so the things you need are different. And that's why I always like to say it's really helpful to be open, to be curious and explore. There are so many wonderful modalities out there and so many different experiences for different people. So just being open-minded, I think, is going to be really helpful. And for me, I see it as trying different things and having it all as resources in my toolbox, right? So depending on what I'm going through, I have different tools and techniques I can go to. It's not like one size fits all.
Sure. All right. Thank you for that. We definitely want to know more about the techniques too. And I said at the end we'll have an opportunity to share everyone's links in the video too, and also in the comments. But before we do finish, there's a couple of more questions that I have to ask everyone of you. And one of them is like, we talk about dis-ease and depression and anxiety and illnesses and sicknesses. But what about pain? When you're in pain, when you're experiencing chronic pain, is there a difference with that? And how would you go about healing the pain or reducing the pain in a natural way? If anyone. Yes, Heidi.
Again, for me, there's two things really. One is again going into my heart and then asking the pain, what does it need to tell me? For me, it's so much about stopping the fighting inside, because I have learned over time when I fight something, when I don't accept it, when I say I shouldn't be in pain or pain is bad or whatever, pain is trying to tell me something. And I keep coming back. This is a practice of 40 years and I have other tools and things, but it's okay, it's okay. I see you. You are in pain. How can I help? There's some other tools I've found, like with a headache, just again, acknowledging where it is in my head. Do you need to be there? What are you showing me? It's for me, so much of it is that acknowledgement, and it just makes the pain easier. And understanding that pain isn't an enemy, even though it seems like I've had some things where I've just had chronic pain for a year or more. And when I made friends with it is when it started going away.
Mm-hmm. That too.
And also going to a doctor and figuring out what was going on, working with a functional medicine doctor to say, okay, clearly, it's a very real thing. But me making friends with it and then finding the root cause of it, it went away. So grateful for that.
Making friends with your pain so much, we tend to make enemies with our pain. we avoid them by, taking medication and things like that, and really going into, I know with me, I spent many years, because I underwent so many operations, I spent many years punishing my body because of the pain that it caused me, instead of making friends with it. So I really like that. So thank you for sharing that. And Dr. Cindy, what about yourself? What's the difference between illnesses and pain? And how can we treat it?
Well, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about the pain part
Yes.
that Heidi mentioned. So I think that the first thing is really to acknowledge that we don't like to be in pain, right? It's
Yes.
uncomfortable. And it's very much based in in terms of our survival instincts, right? Because pain alerts the mind that there could be a threat and danger. And so I think it's about really shifting the perspective of seeing pain as a message and a signal from our body. And I like to say that pain is an invitation to change, right? It's an opportunity to look at what's not working, and you can change it for the better. And I give the example of, let's say, touching your hand on a hot stove, right? You immediately touch it and it's painful, and you what do? Like, you most of the time you probably withdraw your hand right away. And it's not that you keep putting your hand there for like 3 more hours to feel more pain, right? So it's that simple act of acknowledgement that is so key, right? To first actually recognize something's going on. And, for example, for me, like when my shoulders get tense at the end of the day and it's sore, it's not just a reminder that I should go book a massage or whatever, but it's a reminder for me to look at, like, what am I doing during the day or the weeks prior, right? That's contributing to this tension. And it's really about, like Heidi mentioned, getting to the root causes of what's going on, how can you change it and take better care of yourself, so that your muscles, your body doesn't have to get to that point of tension and pain for you to finally listen and do something about it, right? Because we're always receiving messages and signals and things like that. So I think that's something I wanted to share about this idea of pain, of really being more open to it, and being becoming, I guess, friends in a way, right? Just being bringing that sense of compassion.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about wellness and disease, I mean, I think about wellness, it's not just being free of disease or illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's rather, I see it as a state and a practice of integrating the physical, the mental, the spiritual well-being, like all parts of you, so that you can experience inner peace and ease in your everyday life. And I think a lot of times, we might go to the doctor, get labs done, and, the labs might look normal, but you still don't feel well, right? And so I think it's also recognizing that there are a lot of other ways to optimize and to take care of yourself, and not having to wait until something's not working before you do something about it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's really, really, really appreciated, because as both you and Heidi said, it's making friends with our pain. And I can just imagine, I've been sitting here, imagine the world that we could live in if we all realised that we could make friends with our pain, and that the pain's there to help us learn, is giving us a message that something is not quite right, rather than just putting a Band-Aid over it. Yes, Heidi.
As Dr. Cindy was speaking, I was reminded, somebody once gave me an acronym for pain: pay attention, inward, now.
Yeah.
And ever since I heard that, that was one of the switching moments for me. It's pain isn't bad. Pain's telling me to pay attention inward now, not outward. Even emotional pain.
Yes.
We're concentrating on physical, but when I'm all of a sudden sad, instead of always looking for, yes, somebody might have died and there's a reason you're sad, yet you still want to look inside and say, what is this sadness about? Is it just this, or is it more?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Pay attention inward now. Isn't that powerful? Absolutely. Thank you for that. And what about Charlotte and Becky? Do you have anything that you'd like to add about pain?
Yeah, oh, there were so many interesting points
It is,
that
isn't it?
both Heidi and Dr. Cindy were saying, and it was triggering thoughts in me. And I was like, right, I'm gonna have to write these down so I capture it all. So when Dr. Cindy was saying about like considering what we do throughout our day, what I do, because when I monitor my cycle, every day I will say what exercise and what my body, what's been going on in my body, whether that's have I noticed there's more spots, and that's usually premenstrual, or have I had a pain in a certain area in my lower back? So because I've been monitoring that for it's about 2 years now that I've actually been monitoring regularly, it means I've got that information. I sort of know that, okay, this is something that often happens in this part of my cycle, or this is irregular in my cycle, so maybe there's something that I've been doing even in the month prior, in the previous phase.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, so this is, so working out what are my bodily rhythms and
Yes.
what's irregular. And then in terms of with the like sort of listening with our heart and working out where, sorry, where was I again? Oh, with Heidi. Yeah, so Heidi was mentioning about sort of the message that pain sort of gives us, and it's within the shamanic practices that we do an emotional release healing, and this is like we'll sort of do like drumming and a trance-like state, and the individuals working out where in the body is this pain.
Yes.
And there's like metaphysical ideas that if this pain is on the left hand side, it's like feminine. If it's the right hand side, it's masculine. And maybe if it's on our shoulders, it's because we're feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders. There's sort of very sort of simple messages that we can sometimes get with the location, but there's also this release practice that we can do with the message. Once we've received the message, is the person ready to actually go through that process and physically see the pain as an object leaving their body? So it's almost working with the spirit, with the body, using sort of the three pillars, but bringing them together. And the last point was what ended up appearing for me multiple times in my journey was a book called Medical Medium. Now it talks about sort of inflammation in the body and sort of removing certain things from our diet. That really helped me once I was going back to the doctors, because I was told you can't heal it, you just have to wait. And I was like, well, that is a challenge. I'm going to accept it. So I ended up finding Medical Medium, and I found my test results were changing it. You can say whatever with that, but I feel like it was because I was looking at my body, what my body needs to, what nutrients or what food I need to remove from my diet and what I need to put into my body as well. So they were the 3 points that came up for me.
Yeah, which is wonderful, and it goes back to saying, that our bodies know. All we have to do, it's like everyone, all you beautiful women have been saying, is all we really have to do is tune in to our bodies, and our bodies know and listening. So thank you for sharing that. And what about Becky? Do you have anything to add? Like, what do you do when you experience pain?
Well, I'll just tell a simple analogy, essentially. I will say a lot of my own personal issues were that I was constantly seeking validation and information from outside of myself. If something was wrong, I would ask them, what's wrong with me? Can you fix me? And I always felt very disconnected from the medical field. I didn't feel that I won't say every time, but some of the times that I was actually helped. I was given medicine or I was given advice, and and I followed it, but it didn't really seem to stick. And through all of my own processes, what I learned about myself is that I needed to learn how to trust my own self, trust my own intuition. And so when Heidi said pain is um, attention inward, paying attention inward now, I was like, yes, that is so true. But I'd never heard that, and it was so poignant. But once I started to learn how to listen to myself and hear what my own body was saying, whether it was my body or my spiritual being, and those messages that were finally coming through to me that I was able to hear and accept as my own and go, oh, this is where my pain is. This pain in my hip, I don't need to stretch it anymore. I've stretched it until it can be stretched no more. I need to learn to rest it, or I need to learn to strengthen it. And once I start to listen to myself and believe myself and trust myself, then I was more able to communicate with the medical professionals in my life more clearly and say, like, I think this is actually what's wrong. And then they start to validate that instead of just what felt like throwing darts at a dartboard, because I was like, just tell me what's wrong with me. You know, I don't know. I can't hear anything. So I guess that paying attention inward now, I hope everybody writes that down. Thank you,
I
Heidi.
think, yes, yeah, certainly thank you for sharing that and reminding us, and definitely paying attention inward now. And it's wonderful, and listening to our bodies. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Before we wrap up, we've only got a few more minutes left. We've been talking about healing the natural way, healing any diseases, if you've got depression or anxiety or things like that, and also overcoming things that we can do with pain. The last question that I have, if you've got just one tip, then it may be the same that we've already talked about, or maybe something different. Because Charlotte, I picked up on what you were talking about, our cycles. And no matter how old we are, we all still go through our cycles. But when we're in our ebb, when we've got low energy, a lot of the times we might reach for other stimulants, whatever stimulants they are. Is there anything else that you beautiful women can share that, when even the cycles during the day, you hit a spot where you're running out of energy? What tips do you have that we can give ourselves a natural boost? If anyone would do, yes, Becky.
For me, it's just as simple as breathing deeply and doing that count to, I usually start at 6 and try to work my way up to 9, and then count it back down, belly breathing. Just a few of those will increase my energy and my alertness just exponentially. It's so simple, but it does work.
It does do. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Heidi, what about yourself? What do you do when you start to get tired?
For me, actually, because I used to take a dive in the afternoon, and I don't drink caffeine. I never have. I'm so sensitive to it. It's, I used to get jealous when I was in corporate America and my team would come in at 6 o'clock in the morning because we had clients coming in at 7, and they'd all do their shots of coffee and they'd be running around. And if I do a shot of coffee, it actually makes me feel like I've had about 3 shots of alcohol. So it's not good. So what I learned was, especially throughout the day, about every hour and a half to 2 hours minimum, I get up, I walk outside, and I breathe for about 5 minutes. Charlotte was talking about the earthing that they're talking. It really does. When I started doing that, it made such a difference. And the days that I don't do that, where I'm sitting at a computer and I'm all of a sudden 3 or 4 hours have gone by and I'm dragging, I realize I need to go outside. Just go outside and plant my feet in the ground, breathe in some air, and that really helps me.
It does too. I totally agree with that. The grounding, the energy, tuning into the energy of the earth is fantastic. So thank you for that. And what about Dr. Cindy? Do you have any tips that you do, during your day when you're going through that low period? What do you do?
Yeah, I think some of the techniques that were shared are definitely things I like to use as well in terms of the breathing, getting up, moving around, taking a walk, things like that. Another tool I like to practice and share is visualization. And, really just taking a couple minutes, closing your eyes, and think about an activity that really is, depending on what's going on, right? If you're feeling a bit tired and kind of bored, maybe you could think about an activity that is really exciting and fun and energizing to you. And then really bring your body and senses into that. Like, what do you see around you? What are you wearing? How does it feel? What's the temperature, right? The more you can engage your senses, the more you actually are going to stimulate your brain. And research has shown that the brain can't tell the difference between what's real and imagined. So this is a very simple practice that just takes a couple minutes that you can do, and you get the benefits of, that enjoyment, that excitement. And so that's another tool that I like to share that people are welcome to try out too.
No problem. Thank you for that. Visualization is an amazing thing when we do that. So thank you for that. And Charlotte, what about you? Do you have any tips that you can share in increasing our energy when we're feeling a bit flat?
Movement in our body, and it can be, depends, if you're really, really super tired, it could literally be you're in bed and you're doing child's pose, or you're doing a few moves, and then you start to feel like you might have a bit more energy. There's even just sort of cupping and sort of like tapping yourself, and sort of even jumping up and down, but just giving sort of that movement to the body. It's sort of, I don't know the phenomenon in this, but I think it sort of tells your mind like, okay, I feel like I've got energy, but there's also, it helps with your cognitive abilities as well. And just exercising is like it, and exercising, whether it's cardio or whether it's strengthening, it helps your mind to be more sort of awake as well. It's not just for your body, it's for both. So yeah, movement.
Thank you for that. So we've got movement and grounding and breathing and visualization and all these other wonderful techniques, the writing, meditation, mindfulness, and knowing our own cycles and tuning in to that, and Charlotte, what you were talking about too, all the different energies, the earthing and the water, and the fire and the air, the breathing that we have mentioned. Lots and lots of tips and techniques. So I'd really like to thank all our wonderful panelists, because we are coming up to the end of our hour. But before we go, I'd like to give everyone an opportunity. If you'd like to share any of your programs, anything that you'd like to offer a giveaway for our audiences watching live and on the replay, please let us know. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to share? Becky, yes, please do, and let's talk about your amazing books.
Okay.
Yes.
This is my book. It's called Unlocking the Vault: How Reinterpreting Space-Time Theory is the Key to Understanding the Universe and Your Life. Mm-hmm. And this is the accompanying 90-day journal. Mm-hmm. And if you would like the first 5 full days of this journal for free, you can go to my website, becky-edwards.com, and click on the picture of the journal. You'll be directed right to it. You can see what that's all about. The book itself is, I use really easy to understand language to describe the newest studies in physics and biology, as well as my own interpretation of space-time theory and how that points directly to the natural intelligence embedded in the world all around us, how we can identify that, how we can interpret it. And it just really takes the reader into a deeper understanding of their own environment and then ultimately themselves, because we are a part of nature.
We are certainly, so thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I will definitely be looking into it because everything you've said is very, very interesting. But just one quick question, if I can ask Becky, because we've talked about automatic writing. So has your book come through the process of automatic writing? Has that really helped you?
Yes, the first 60 pages of this book are pretty much automatic writing. It was over a period of 8 days, and it would just come through and come through and come through. And I would like, is this real? Is this true? Is this, can I write this? Am I just thinking this? What is happening here? And I did go through and I made sure I had studies and information to back that up. And it is really fascinating stuff. And it really is an exploration of time as energy and how that relates to really everything in our natural environment.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing more about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And anyone else? Does anyone have anything that they'd like to give away, share? Yep, Heidi, and then we'll go to Dr. Cindy and Charlotte.
I have a couple offers actually. I've also written 3 books, and so if you would, one is on energy healing, and then 2 are around healing trauma and abuse using storytelling and ritual and ceremony. And if you want to go to my website, which is myname.com, you can download an e-copy of that free. And also, I have been asked to do a case study around the work that I do. So I am looking for 3 women who are in a place of no longer wanting to have to call themselves addicts and are ready to move to transcending that and getting rid of the behaviors and the limiting beliefs that are really preventing them from living fully. So in order to do that, the case studies are anonymous. I'm looking for 3 people, and I'm literally giving it to you at what it would cost me, which is 75% off of the normal price to do a breakthrough. I do need people that are committed. It is intense work, and there will be tasks that you have to do, and it will take time. So it's a 8 to 12 week process. And so I'm really looking for 3 women who want to really jump to that next level and not be addicts anymore.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that and offering that. And I'm sure that there's lots of women who are watching the live or watching the replay that may definitely be interested. And when you're talking about people who no longer want to be addicts, that's any type of addiction? Any type?
Yes, I just finished working with somebody who was addicted to chaos.
Yes,
literally.
exactly.
And their comment was, oh, I only think of addiction as, drugs, alcohol, eating, or shopping, sex, whatever. I said, no, it can be our own internal cycles and things like that, and really taking a look at it. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you for asking that.
That's not a problem, because that's a whole different conversation as well. All the different types of addictions and how we can be, even addicted to our computers. So there's a lot of people in our world that are addicted to our computers and stuff. So thank you for sharing that. What about Dr. Cindy? Do you have anything that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure. So I have my book here. It's called So Much Better. It's a #1 bestseller, and it basically offers life-changing strategies to help you develop calm, confidence, and curiosity to become an inspiring success story. So it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and you're also welcome to take a look on my website. And also specifically for those high achievers out there who get overwhelmed and stressed easily, I have a free gift available. It's a free guide I created. It's called the Create Your Own Calm Guide, where I share very useful tips in there. So you're welcome to grab it from my website. It's cindythymd.com/calm, CALM. So I love to share that with anyone who's interested, and feel free to connect with me on all the social media channels at CindyThyMD for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to that too. Thank you for sharing. And Charlotte, what about your beautiful self? Do you have anything that you would like to share?
Yeah,
before we
so
wrap up?
I'll be in October. There's going to be a program that I have, a 7-week program called Nature in Your Backyard. So this is focusing on, there will be cycles within it. You'll notice that there's cycles within it, but it's a focus for sort of families or educators to share with children, so then children can start working with cycles and connecting. Well, it's not even connecting, it's rewilding and knowing that they're nature, and it gives skills to both the parents or the educators and to the children. So it's a really beautiful program. And you can follow me through Earthchild Sydney on Facebook and Instagram, and I've got a link tree as well. My website's in the process at the moment, but if you go to my link tree, you'll also see for my course. Well, that'll be in October, so it's not quite there yet, but I think you can put your expression of interest in the course or sign up to my email list through my link tree.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And we'll certainly be putting all your links in your link tree in all the comments everywhere where we've gone live. So just like to thank everyone, all you beautiful women, Dr. Cindy and Heidi and Charlotte and Becky for joining us today. And of course, Angel, who's been sitting there helping us with all the tech stuff and putting all the links in. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And coming up tomorrow for our panel discussions, roughly the same time, or roughly, is how does your love life control your success in business? So do come and join us or tune in for that. And of course, my name is Sophia from sacredyou.love. Check out our website, because right now we are offering our foundation members special, where you can join us just for $1, and that's $1 Australian, and for that you get to experience all our different tribes. We have many special interest tribes, from health and wellness to personal development to all the metaphysical things of human design and astrology and tarot card, to all sorts of different tribes. That do come and check us out, and you can experience them all for 3 weeks for just $1. And then after that, it's just 15 Australian dollars a month. So do come and check us out, and you can also be part of all these wonderful panel discussions, where our aim is to inspire, innovate, and ignite, women and men all over the world with these conversations. So thank you, ladies, ever so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.